But you got.
He's a walking felon, that's what he is.
Fuck you.
Trump is a walking felon, that's what he is.
Your daddy fuck you, you pussy ass bitch. You lucky these bad shit. You need to defund the police. You like to defund the police? Why are they protecting you? Why are they protecting you? Why are they protecting you? Oh, your point? I'll touch that cane too. You inciting a riot, bitch.
What am I doing?
No, okay. You inciting a riot, bitch.
What am I doing?
No. Yes, so
we should get to go over there and do it over there. Let's go over there.
Nah, don't do it over there.
You should go there.
Who's protecting us?
We should go over there and you should protect us over there.
I don't want protection. I don't want protection. Fuck that shit. I want to beat some ass.
I don't need protection. If they beat me up, they beat me up. It's no thing. I take a beating for the Constitution. That's what it is. Trump is a walking felon. He's a felony. Trump is, we call him felony in New York. That's what we call Trump. He's a walking felon.
I thought you called him daddy.
Convicted of felony. Who was it? Gates. Everybody. He's a fucking felon.
Hey, did you defund the police? You want to defund the police? How ironic is this shit?
I love the police. Not the way it is.
Right. The people over there, hey, you think cops are good?
How are you?
Hey, oh my God, I didn't recognize you.
I know, right? It's crazy without the beard. Yes, thank you. 30. Good seeing you all, man.
I don't know, they do. Shut up. Shut up. You know me. Get out of here. You know, this is
They taking them.
Sérieusement avec ces gens-là.
Okay, and you as a woman who supports Trump on your side. Oh, sorry. Yeah, oh, there's the look. Sorry, I guess I'm...
God bless y'all. God bless y'all. In a bad spot. How you doing? AT&T because it's just as I can see you. Bandit 1, right? Misty. Let's go. Transgender should be.
Puerto Rico has American flag over it. inciting a riot.
What am I doing?
No. Yes, no, I
And thank you all for your support getting us down here. If you want to help contribute, you can go to givesendgo.com/Oreo. We are 100% viewer funded. Don't take any sponsorships. 100% viewer funded. So we're able to do this because of the thoughtful and kind viewers. Thank you very much. They're not very good at keeping the street clear, that's for sure. How are you doing?
I'm following you over a year now.
Right on.
I just want you to know I appreciate what you're doing this call.
Yes, I got your message like a couple days ago.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Here, let me take a selfie with you. Oh no, I wasn't. It's going that way. Right on,
Hey,
man.
I'm not done. Something I learned in ministry early on was a Baptist handshake.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Now listen, this is who I am. I want to go. On my knees, I know you don't know me, but my name is I'm down in the future. I'm staying in New York for the rest of the week. If you need me, if you get stranded or anything, my phone number, all my contact information. I've been following you since papers.
I remember that, yes.
Oh, you and Joe down in. Listen, I can't even get anything done. That's how I always want to
remember that, yes.
I want you to know I love you. I appreciate you. And I just want to shake your hand right now. And I want to pray for you. All right, so don't feel funny. I know you don't know me. I'm
No, hey.
But my contact, everything is on it. It tells you who I am, what I do. This will make it. No.
I appreciate you.
I've been
There's one thing he was going to do today was going to meet you.
I'm glad,
Honestly,
man.
I
I'm
can't-
glad.
I wanted to see what was going on. And I wanted to be down to take this down so bad, but I couldn't,
I appreciate it.
I'll chip and what
Yeah,
you're doing.
thank you,
Glory to
man.
God.
I'll hit you up before I leave here.
All right.
Thank you, Pastor Carl. So it looks like they're letting. So this might be where the. That was great, Pastor Carl. You guys might recognize him from some of the YouTube chats. Been following for a while. Excuse me one second.
Oh yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Okay.
See that part? You gotta go to the back. Yeah, it's open to the back.
So I don't think he'll be coming through here. It is probably the other side, but we got service right here. We're gonna keep this going right here.
Tower. Let's just hear the sounds of New York City for a moment.
different families through, Jen, everybody else in the freedom movement. And if you guys could, and you want to donate anything to East Palestine that isn't on the wish list, you would go through her. But there is a link for that. We're not doing anything currently for that, but we have the wish list up from Amazon, guys. If you do want to donate to the kids down in Darlington, not Darlington. Next.
We continue to bring you the top story right here on Live Now from Fox, everyone. This is outside of Trump Tower right here. We are awaiting for the former president to come down the steps right here and then go into the motorcade outside of about 4 miles away there from Trump Tower here. And we are continuing to really showcase every step of the way for our viewers right here, giving you some insight about what is happening outside of Trump Tower here on this day. Another update here, former President Donald Trump not required to provide a mugshot ahead of his arraignment. A federal official familiar with information told the Secret Service that they have received, told Fox News' Jake Gibson, that Trump will be processed and fingerprinted before the arraignment. However, it is the Secret Service's understanding that District Attorney Alvin Bragg has waived the need for a mugshot there. So there was always some speculation there as well about whether we would see a mugshot there. That will not be the case there as all, because District Attorney Alvin Bragg just waived that right here. Of course, we got you covered right here on Live Now from Fox, bringing you always the top stories and headlines from across the country. And we are waiting here for Donald Trump to come down and go to court there ahead of the arraignment that has everyone continuing to really be on heightened alert there in New York City. Really, this has been really well orchestrated between city, state, and federal officials, as well as the Secret Service, all coming together really to plan out this highly choreographed move here from transporting a former president to an arraignment after he was indicted last Thursday here. And here's the setup that we have for you outside of the courthouse here. You got some people just out there looking around as they wait for the president to come. And then we do, of course, have the shots available to us right outside of Trump Tower here on this Tuesday as we continue to wait here. Looks like it could be building up more and more as we got now more Secret Service members coming out here of right outside of the doors there, and they are continuing to wait for the official word to transport the former president to the courthouse here.
Well, we don't have any of those.
And we were on the right side when this happened, guys. Hey, haha. If you were and monetize this stream, it won't let me because I'm on the wrong phone. Maybe it will. Let me see.
If there is no struggle, there is no progress.
Looks like they got some Secret Service walking up right there, guys.
I was like, oh, that's right. This company said it's on tour. I was on my way to class, and I was like, we might have scratched actually. Oh.
Hopefully it doesn't go down in the service because everybody's coming over here now. This is the New York State Courts Police in front of us. Justice to all men of whatever state or person. Persuasion. Well, we know there's not.
I got my Starlink in here.
And so I would assume that he couldn't talk about the case in Florida. Now that will be they will fight that tooth and nail and take it to whatever appellate court that they have to, because this is a unique situation. He's running for president of the United States, and he's been accused of crimes, which he says he's been uncharacteristically charged with crimes, and he needs to be able to speak to those crimes in the election. And if he's prevented from doing that, there's going to be a huge court battle, and this will end at the Court of Appeals relatively quickly.
Yeah, all eyes right now there definitely on just what is going to come from today. And then really, as we're talking about not only a former president, but one that wants to be president again there when he is in the middle now and starting out this campaign for 2024. Is he going to have to sort of like weave in and out and navigate the way he chooses his words while campaigning? Or is it because if you're in the campaign mode, can you have some sort of leeway as far as how it almost feel like if you have a muzzle on you if you can't campaign the way you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a T-shirt that says you have the right to remain silent, but do you have the ability? And Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to remain silent. But he does have to watch what he says, because anything he says can and will be used against him in a court of law. So, I would expect if there ends up a trial, there's going to be lots of video clips of Donald Trump saying various things.
Yeah, we all know that. I mean, that is probably something that you can be guaranteed to be, if you're a bettor there, that you know that Trump is going to say something. You just don't know what it is going to be here. But another question that I have for you, Dwayne, here is this is something that the feds investigated, and they decided not to bring any charges against Donald Trump. Now we have the DA there, Alvin Bragg. He says, yep, let's do it. And then it goes for felony counts there. How do we go from misdemeanor to elevated there to the felony stature that we're hearing about?
Well, that's really interesting. And we don't know exactly what the charges are yet. But what everybody's been talking about is that he violated federal campaign laws, campaign finance laws. Now, that makes it really interesting because he's not been convicted of violating campaign finance laws, and the feds refused to even try to charge him with campaign finance violations. And so I don't know how they connect this misdemeanor and turn it into a felony by connecting it to a federal crime, which is neither been charged nor convicted. And in fact, they turned down charging it. So that makes this I've never heard of anything like that before in my 25 years practicing law. And this is going to be really interesting.
And what do you think, too, about just the whole process there of getting Donald Trump there from his residency to the courthouse there, and kind of having that, well, not kind of having, I mean, it's going to have that circus atmosphere there, because you're going to have protesters, you're going to have people that support him there, and they're all going to be going after each other. But at the end of the day, he's just going to walk in a side entrance there and go in. And the process, like you said, there are only about 30 minutes expected.
Yeah, it should be a very short process, and getting him to the courthouse is going to be a trick. Secret Service are not amateurs at this. They've been transporting presidents in and out of sticky situations for as long as there's been presidents of the United States. So they'll get him to the courthouse. What's going to go on outside the courthouse, who knows? I mean, maybe we'll have a Michael Jackson moment where, Trump stops and stands up out of the sunroof of the car and waves to everybody. With Donald Trump, you never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, guaranteed. You never know what is going to happen next there. But what we can also talk about going forward there is
to go inside. We're going to see where they're going to take them to. It'll give us a good idea where they're going to drop Trump off, probably. Yeah, so it's going to be on that side, it looks like. Cards that allow them to be in the courtroom. Goes the service. So he's leaving Trump Tower right now, guys. I'm guessing it's probably, I don't know with the detail, a 10-minute drive? 12, maybe more, maybe more.
Door and inside of the courthouse here. Let's talk about who will he be greeted by first, and who will be guiding him to the area that he needs to be at.
Well, he'll be met by law enforcement when he comes in the building, because technically what he's doing is self-surrendering to the court. And so law enforcement will take him. They'll put him through the booking process, but from what I understand, they're not going to do a mugshot. And that's too bad, because that would be a bestseller T-shirt everywhere in America for those that like him and those that don't. But they'll take his fingerprints, they'll get his biographical data, and they'll do the booking process, and then he will be taken up to the courtroom where he'll do his arraignment.
And we know also that Secret Service obviously is going to be with him at every step of the way there. Is there anything like, as far as when the officers are there in the courthouse, are they going to be directed by Secret Service members? Like, who has the lead there as far as telling what the former president should be doing? Well,
I think it's going to have to be cooperation. I mean, they're going to tell them where to go, and then the Secret Service agents are going to escort him to where he's going, because I don't think they're going to just, they're not going to just let him walk around by himself, and they're not going to be separated from Donald Trump by law enforcement at any point. Secret Service is going to be there with him every step of the way. So, the law enforcement officers technically have control over what goes on, but I believe they've worked out some logistics with the Secret Service to make this run smoothly.
Yeah, we've been hearing just highly orchestrated there. There was planning about this weeks in the making there. And, there was a moment there where we thought, the grand jury was going to be going on a break there for most of April and coming back in May. And then last week, we really got the news there, and the breaking news coming in the afternoon and early evening hours, that Trump was indeed returned with an indictment there. And I got to ask you, Dwayne, when you heard about that news coming, that the indictment had been reached there, what was your thinkings?
Well, I was a little bit shocked because they kept taking pauses in the grand jury. And like you said, they basically announced that they were going to go on their Easter recess and come back and take it up after that. But I've done a lot of work with juries, and juries don't like to be held over a holiday. And so I believe that the grand jury's probably said, hey, let's get this done now rather than wait till after Easter.
Yeah, very, very true there. As we take a look here, let's go out full right now to the motorcade that is going to the courthouse here. And we are going to see, there was some speculation and some reporting also by Fox News that Trump wanted to maybe speak in the hallway there right before going in. As if he was your client, Dwayne, what would you tell the former president to do in this moment going for his arraignment?
Number one, I would tell him to keep his mouth shut, but that's not very practical with Donald Trump. My standard statement when the press comes up to me when I'm going into a court hearing is my client's going to plead not guilty because he is not guilty. And that would be a good statement for him to make, is that I'm going to plead not guilty because I am not guilty. And his attorney should remind America that he's innocent until proven guilty. And these are just accusations and they're not convictions.
Yeah, very, very true to bring that forward here. And when we hear from District Attorney Alvin Bragg a little bit later there after this arraignment is, and we'll get to really hear a lot about the charges there that are brought against him. But when you hear the reporting there that it could be as high as 34 counts, what is your thinking on that? And for hearing that, is that a super high number for a case like this?
Well, the prosecutors tend to always overcharge cases so they can plea bargain them down later. And so, that's not a shocking number. I mean, I've seen cases with 100 counts, but again, until we see what they are, they could all be ticky-tacky little, like you put this down in your financial statement when it should have been this, real minor errors, accounting errors. And, we don't know. So we're just speculating. But I expect Alvin Bragg to go up to the microphone and do just that, brag.
There we go. And I want to show you this one right here to our viewers, maybe just coming on. This was moments ago, Donald Trump waving to the cameras, waving to supporters there, coming out of Trump Tower there. And we wanted to bring that everyone's attention just a little bit ago because we're waiting on that shot really all morning long there. And now another live look here at the motorcade. And who can come outside of his legal team, Dwayne? Who else can come with the president as far as entourage is involved here inside of the courtroom?
Well, I mean, I don't think they can keep his Secret Service detail out of the courtroom. And, as far as who gets to sit at counsel table, that's generally just the attorneys and the defendant. Now they can be stationed throughout the courtroom, the Secret Service. In fact, they may even be inside the bar standing, off to the side. but he can. They can't say you can't have your Secret Service people there, and so that's who's going to be there. Now this is open to the public, and I'll guarantee you there's been a long line of people trying to get into this hearing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw people there sleeping overnight there, and there was also even some professional line sitters that'll, if you pay them, they'll wait in line there. We saw those people there as well in the early mornings there. So people are monetizing this opportunity that has become a huge spectacle in the making right here on Live Now from Fox as we continue to showcase this that continues to roll out live right here on Sky Fox of the Trump motorcade making their way to the courthouse now for the arraignment there. And Dwayne, I got to ask you too, as well as when we're talking about the former president that still has hopes for 2024 is a candidate right now. And if you said if they could keep putting these emotions and backing this trial, or even if it goes to trial in a year, well, that'll put a smack dab right in the middle there of the true campaign season. And how would that even gel if you're trying to run for president and, hey, you got to have a court trial date coming up?
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Trump has a tendency to suck all the oxygen out of a room, and he's kind of doing that with the news cycle right now, because it's all Trump all the time. And if this goes to trial, it's going to be all Trump all the time. And there is the saying that any publicity is good publicity, but I'm torn whether that's going to work here or not. There are going to be people are going to take sides. I mean, it's going to divide America. People are going to take sides about this trial, and that's going to affect the election. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Yes. And now we are continuing to showcase the motorcade making of the way there. And I also want to talk about a little bit more about his 8:15 Eastern really remarks that I'll be making back at Mar-a-Lago, and it'll be interesting to see what he can say and what he will say. I'm really sure that if he's given the opportunity to speak, well, it'll be no holds barred. Dwayne, what about you?
Well, yeah, again, you never know what Donald Trump is going to say, and generally he has a lot to say, and I'm sure he will rail against the system and rail against Prosecutor Bragg. And he will defend his innocence.
Yes, very, very true there as well. And now I just want to show our viewers here the protest rally happening right outside of the courthouse as well. And we are waiting there for the former president to make his way up the steps there of the courthouse and into the building there. And the moment that we were hearing last week when there was some reporting that Donald Trump actually wanted to be handcuffed and was thinking that it would be a good move to be seen in handcuffs there as a political moment there in history. What would you have thought of seeing the president there handcuffed, and would that even have been a possibility? I know he wanted it, but was that even a thinking in the realm there of a possibility to happen?
Well, it was a possibility, and normally when people self-surrender, when they're transported from wherever they self-surrender to the bookings area, they're usually handcuffed. Now, he's going to be, he's showing up directly there. And so, him being handcuffed or not handcuffed is basically law enforcement's call. But, he's surrounded by Secret Service. Everybody in the country's watching this. I mean, what's he going to do? Run or punch somebody? Okay. So, he's going to be fine. And it's the smart thing to do as far as the prosecution goes, because again, had he had Trump handcuffed and did a perp walk with him handcuffed, then everybody would say, see, this is a political show trial. I still believe it's a political show trial, but that would have really made it look like one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's go right here, full for our viewers right here on Live Now from Fox. We are at the moment here of President Trump there arriving at the courthouse here. So what I want to do is keep you on, Dwayne, but I also want to just bring in the audio right here, just right outside of the courthouse to show the former president coming out of the SUV. So let's listen in for a little bit right here on Live Now from Fox as what we could possibly hear, and if he will make any motions again to the camera. But as you can see here, the security has been lined up. The block has really been blocked off in several areas here, all for security measures there for the former president there. And you can see more people going into the courthouse right now. You can't even really see a clear shot of it at this moment. But let's also talk again, Dwayne, for the viewers here, maybe just coming on and seeing these pictures right outside of the courthouse here. And let's also talk about just these next moments there for the former president, who he will be greeted by inside of the courthouse.
Well, as soon as he walks in, he's going to be greeted by law enforcement, and law enforcement's going to escort him to the area where they do the booking. And he will be booked in, just like everybody else who's charged with a crime and self-surrenders is going to be booked in. And then after his booking process, he'll be taken to the courtroom and where they'll do his arraignment. Now, the arraignment's a pretty short hearing, generally 5-10 minutes. And after that, he'll walk back out. I'm assuming he'll walk back out, get in his car and fly back to Mar-a-Lago.
Now, at what point can Trump's legal team try to get a judge dismissed and try to get a new venue or try to get a new judge as well over the possibility there of having what Donald Trump would say is unfair advantage?
Well, I'd be surprised if those motions weren't already written. Now, it would always be prudent to wait to see what the indictment says before you start filing motions. But I believe that the motion to remove the judge in this case has already been written and will be filed within the next day or two.
All right, that is good information there as well. I want to show our viewers right here, just moments ago, Sky Fox was able to capture Donald Trump heading into the courthouse here with that side entrance there that we have been talking about. You can see the Secret Service there behind the former president there going in the courthouse. So now he is in the courthouse there and now doing what exactly you've been talking about there, Dwayne, is going to be processed here in just moments and awaiting that arraignment. And then what happens next, who knows, right, as far as the remarks that will be made. But we always encourage all our viewers to continue to watch with us right here on Live Now from Fox. Really history in the making day here in New York City, as this will go down as one of the biggest not only in the legal sense, but also the political sense as well, when you're talking about somebody that is trying to run again for president and now will have the opportunity to really kind of showcase this not as a defeat against him in ways that some political observers would say, could be just a dynamite of bricks thrown at you for anyone else, but how it always seems with Donald Trump that he is a Teflon about him, where it can bounce back and almost use this as a positive for him and his campaign. And Dwayne, in the legal sense here, what would you say to him as far as, I'm sure he doesn't feel like, depressed about this at all, more maybe even motivated?
Yeah, absolutely. He may, he feeds on this. He really does. Donald Trump's a fighter and he likes a good fight. And he just got invited to one, and he's going to come out swinging. He's going to come out with everything he's got in this. And it's going to be a brawl. It really is.
There we go. That's a good way to end it right here with you, Dwayne. We appreciate it right here on Live Now from Fox, really giving us a sense and setting us up, really setting the table up here for what we can expect in the next coming hours here on Live Now from Fox. But it's been a real treat to speak with you, Dwayne. We are really appreciate it here on Live Now from Fox. And certified specialist in criminal law, Dwayne Cates, thank you again for being here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And now let's go out full, everyone, here, just outside of the courthouse here, where we did see the former president just moments ago head into court there with his legal team, as well as Secret Service members. Let's show that to you right here on Live Now from Fox in case you missed it right here. So this was the moment. Let's show you as we regroup that video here. And you can see there right near the center of your screen right now in the red tie, that is the former president walking in with the Secret Service members into the courthouse there. And now let's go out live here again. So this is the scene right there. And if you're just joining us again, we want to show you, about 20 minutes ago, Donald Trump putting his hands there to the sky, making a fist there of a nice gesture to the crowd, and then going into the motorcade there that we see. So here is what is happening outside of the courthouse now. Nothing going on as far as anything bad at this moment, as protesters as well as supporters of Donald Trump coming right outside of the courthouse, but just seems like an orderly way. People just walking normally in and around outside of that courthouse there. So we'll continue to follow it for you every step of the way right here on Live Now from Fox as we wait for more big updates regarding Donald Trump inside of the courthouse right now. And we await for more details about his arraignment that is expected in the next 45 minutes right here on Live Now from Fox. Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Pace. Thanks again for being here with us. We now know Donald Trump inside of the courthouse there in Manhattan as we await the unsealing of that indictment. That'll give us a lot more information to talk about. The last 4 days really just been talking about this indictment, but really could never get into the meat and bones there of the arraignment that was actually in the indictment because, well, we haven't gotten into the arraignment yet, and now that's coming up in the next 45 minutes. So we will be bringing that to you right here on Live Now from Fox. We'll keep an eye on this shot. As soon as we get more updates coming out of New York, we will bring it to you. But I want to go out live right now to the White House briefing. I kind of know some of the questions there that are going to be asked there to the White House, but we'll see what they can say. They'll probably defer that it is not in their purview right now to be speaking. Let's listen right here on Live Now from Fox.
And safety to ensure responsible, innovative, and appropriate safeguards. The president believes that tech companies have a responsibility to make sure their products are safe before making them public. And so he will also reiterate his call on Congress to pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect kids, limit personal data tech companies collect on all of us. With that, Sungmin, you want to kick us off?
I have two topics.
Sure.
I was wondering on the pretty remarkable developments in the Tennessee legislature where Republican lawmakers are moving to expel.
So he is inside the courthouse right now. Again, he's supposed to be arraigned at 2:15. The time never changed. So he's going to do that. I'm going to get me a drink really quick. Yeah, he's been inside for a little while now. Wait and see what happens and go from there. Yeah, no, we were on the
Looking for the bourbonist getaway in Kentucky?
block our shot. The man's blocking the shot. You're the man in charge.
I know that that's the Secret Service. I gotta talk to them.
President now under arrest. He surrendered to Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, and he is going to find out once he enters court what the exact charges are against him. Now, as part of the process of booking, which is the word that we use, booking or processing somebody who is under arrest, is that they get fingerprinted. That is going to happen. The mugshot, as you have been hearing all day today, not sure if that's going to happen or not. A lot of people believe that is definitely going to happen. but he is definitely not going to be in handcuffs at all, and that's because he is surrounded by Secret Service from start to finish, and as a result, he's not a danger to any of the court officers, he's not a danger to law enforcement, he's not a danger to himself, and he's not a danger to the public, and there's no risk of him fleeing. So he is not going to be handcuffed at all. One thing, though, that he has been doing leading up to today's proceeding, which his lawyers have not been happy about, is he has been highly critical of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and even at sometimes calling him names. His own attorneys said that they would advise him against doing so. He's also been highly critical of the judge, Juan Merchan, and any attorney will tell you that you really shouldn't be criticizing your judge going into a proceeding. That is not the best course of action. You're not really going to endear yourself to a judge by criticizing them and calling them names and making allegations against them. Now, the whole procedure here, though, is supposed to take about 20 to 30 minutes, so it's probably going to happen at 2:15 as was previously scheduled, and then he's going to be taken out of here. He's going to come out of the same entrance that he went into. You guys saw that, in through the DA's entrance for the employees, and then he's going to head immediately to LaGuardia Airport, get on a plane, and head back down to Mar-a-Lago. We are not going to be seeing him unless something happens that none of us are expecting, and he suddenly walks out here. We are not supposed to be seeing him. I highly doubt that Secret Service would allow him to do something like that, because honestly, that could put him in danger. There aren't any, people that are gathering here. They're not checking them to see if anybody could possibly have a weapon. We have no idea. They haven't checked them. So I can't imagine that Secret Service would allow him to just go walking through the streets or even walk down this street here, even though there are barricades. Reporters I know are in the courtroom now. The courtroom is a large courtroom. It's the largest one here at criminal court, but it's still not that big for hundreds of reporters to be in there. There's about 25, and then there's going to be two overflow courtrooms where reporters are going to be sitting in there and watching all of this unfold on a video monitor. But Teresa, you were saying there are cameras, TV cameras allowed in the hallways. The assumption is we're going to see Donald Trump walking down the hallway and walking back, and we had heard earlier today that he was going to be stopping and talking to the media. Whether or not that happens, who really knows? But because with Donald Trump, you never know. Law enforcement.
You're watching live now from Fox, everyone. We were just listening in there to Fox 5 New York a little bit, and right now we have the hallway shot inside of the courthouse here, where Donald Trump right now is being processed. We're about a half an hour away from the moment of the arraignment there. That will not be on camera, but we will get a photo of the former president there inside during that arraignment there. So we will be bringing you all of that coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. We are staying with it here and giving you the updates that are happening all in real time right here. And let's take a live look right now outside where we can continue to see more updates, and that will be coming out of the protest, the rally that is happening there. And now we want to go back inside of that hallway shot. Let's just keep it on that for a while now, as we're really not getting too much from outside right now. We appreciate all our viewers across the country and around the world watching with us all in real time, as the former president now is inside the courthouse here, as tensions continue to rise at the very moment here. We are moments away from the arraignment that will be coming for Donald Trump. He is being fingerprinted right now, that we are learning from Fox News sources there that are inside, and you can see this hallway shot in the courthouse here. This has been an orchestrated moment for quite some time. They've been talking about just the logistics of getting a former president inside of the courthouse and then to process that individual. And it's something to see when you see that outside of the door of the criminal court building. And now we'll face the judge here in moments after that indictment by the Manhattan grand jury. Former President Donald Trump today described a surreal journey to the New York City courtroom in Lower Manhattan, where he is now being processed ahead of an arraignment, heading to Lower Manhattan. The courthouse, he said on social, as he made his way from Trump Tower to the courtroom, seems so surreal. Wow, they're going to arrest me. He said, can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA. Trump is being processed and then escorted to the judge's chambers there. Sorry, shot went out right there, but now we can give you a shot outside of the house there. Trump is being processed and escorted to the courtroom for the arraignment proceedings, which are scheduled to begin at 2:15 Eastern. So we are less than a half an hour away from that. We do have our shot now back inside. Let's go to that right here on Live Now from Fox. The details still right now of Trump's indictment are still sealed, though the case centers around alleged hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal. Trump is expected to plead not guilty to those charges. Again, Trump putting on Truth Social as he was going to the courthouse saying, seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA. That was the last Truth Social post there that the former president said. But what will he say this evening? That is the question. He is expected to go back to Mar-a-Lago after this court hearing and then speak at 8:15 Eastern. Now, before that, we do have the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, scheduled for a news conference at 3:30 Eastern. That is when we will learn a lot more about the charges that are brought against the former president. So we will be bringing that to you right here on Live Now from Fox as well. Let's now go back out to Fox 5 New York. We have their shot back here available to us. The team is continuing to work here the angles of this story, and there are many, many of them. But let's go out to Fox 5 New York. They do a great job, have reporters all over the city in and around this courthouse as we continue to showcase history in the making day of former President Donald Trump being processed right now inside the criminal courthouse.
Length or meat and substance to it as a first appearance and arraignment on the indictment. We really have to wait and see. But I would imagine also a consideration would be the court and the staff wanting this to be a expedited and safe process, so business can go on as usual at that courthouse, in the DA's office, with other cases coming in and out, attorneys coming in and out, members of the public coming in and out, and of course outside that courtroom and courthouse, making sure things are in a law and order fashion.
I mean, if this was any other case, obviously the defendant would stand up and be given the opportunity to enter a plea. In this case, Joe Tacopina and others have said unequivocally he will plead not guilty no matter what the charges are. He is entering a not guilty plea. But then going forward, what else could possibly happen? I mean, since we don't know the exact crimes, we don't even know if they're bail eligible.
All right, so that was a little bit of Fox 5's coverage. We're having a little bit problems getting that video and audio synced up there. But right here, we are back out right there in the hallway for you, and we'll be providing you updates as we get them all right here on Live Now from Fox. So stay right here with us. We're not going anywhere, as we are going to continue to give you the updates all in real time as they are happening, and we are awaiting that arraignment to be happening within the next 20 minutes or so. Jason Miller, a senior advisor to former President Donald Trump, was live tweeting the journey from Trump Tower to the Manhattan court where the former president is going to be arraigned. Miller tweeted a number of pictures as the Trump motorcade made its way downtown through Manhattan to the New York City courtroom. Miller posted the images with American flags and fist emojis saying POTUS 45 is rolling there. The former Illinois governor who was arrested and charged came out to talk about about Donald Trump there. If you remember, Donald Trump pardoned the former Illinois governor Rod Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich also was a star on the Apprentice celebrity version number of years ago. Former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich called out weaponized district attorneys ahead of former President Donald Trump's arraignment today, warning on America's Newsroom on Fox News this morning that prosecutors like Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg are out to steal the freedoms of Americans. Blagojevich has maintained his innocence on corruption charges after his prison sentence was commuted by then President Trump back in 2020 there. So if you're just joining us here, let's reset it, everyone, for you on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate you being here. We are inside right now the Manhattan courthouse, where this is the hallway right now, where we are waiting to see any glimpse of the former president. He is being processed right now in the courthouse ahead of this hearing that's expected to go anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. That's what we have been hearing from a lot of legal experts today. We should also note here from other Fox News reporting, the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office appears to have scrubbed the Meet Our Team portion of its website ahead of former President Donald Trump's appearance in court on Tuesday afternoon there. We don't know if that is for security reasons or what kind of issues came with the website there, but that was being reported there by Fox News as well. Let's show you some other video that we have throughout this morning that has been really all eyes on Donald Trump. That is going to be not only the top story of the day, obviously, but probably for the week and who knows going forward as well. But this was outside of his Trump Tower earlier today here, about an hour ago, as he was pointing his fist there to the cameras and looking on at supporters. And then this was the moment he arrived at the courthouse there with his team of, you can see they're waving to the crowd there on the side street there that was able to catch a glimpse of the former president being flanked by his Secret Service entourage. Now we take a look back out inside of the courthouse, where we are now about 15 minutes away from this arraignment here. And that is when we will learn a lot more about what is in this indictment, the number of charges, what they are, and just how many felonies or misdemeanors are in it right here. And we'll be bringing that to you all right here on Live Now from Fox in real time as they're coming in. I just want to continue to showcase some other news revolving around Donald Trump right now, as Senator Marco Rubio posted a video on social media today ahead of former President Trump's arraignment, laminating that it would mark a, quote, new normal in the state of American politics. Put aside for a moment whether you like Trump or not like him, whether you're for him or not for him. Today is a bad day for all of us. Today, American politics crosses a line that it's never going to come back from, Rubio said. After today, every prosecutor in America that wants to make a name for themselves now is going to have permission to basically go after someone in the other party, he said. Rubio added that nothing would now stop a Republican or conservative prosecutor from going after the Bidens or the Clintons because as of today, a new normal had been set. He then called the charges against Trump absurd and ripped that they were based on the testimony of convicted liar Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney. All right, everybody, and we are coming up on the top of the hour here, just some moments away, and we appreciate you joining us here. I'm your host, Mike Pacey, as we continue to navigate this live, raw, and unfiltered feeds that we are getting in real time. We appreciate you being part of the process here with us as we continue to wait for more details as the former president is being right now processed. About 15 minutes away as Trump right now is under arrest there at the New York Criminal Court. What I want to do now is just show you a brief soundbite from the Speaker of the House. Had an event there in California, was asked about Donald Trump and the arraignment today. Let's listen to this right here on Live Now from Fox.
Talk about Within Banging and the arrest of Donald Trump today. What's your thoughts?
All right, that shot was a little bit, the audio a little rough right there. What we'll do, I want to go now back out to Fox 5 New York. They have continuing coverage on this as well.
Courthouse, even other attorneys working. You want only necessary people in that area. You want clean, swift movements because everybody needs to know who everybody is. Just because somebody is in a uniform.
Everybody has to be accounted for.
Yes. I don't know who you are and why you're there. A uniform means nothing today. So I want only essential people there, only essential people who have a function. If you don't have a function, whether you work for the district attorney's office or not, or law enforcement, move out of the way, stay clear.
Evie, can you just speak to the fact that here in New York City, we're quite used to dignitaries coming and going. We're quite used to presidential visits. They happen all the time, all year long. So what we saw today, to me, was very reminiscent of all of the other presidential visits that we cover. Watching the motorcade go, especially during the UN General Assembly. So why is it okay in that situation, UN General Assembly or the president is here for some high-level meetings, why is it okay in that situation to be able to see sort of the entire process, but on a day like today, it would cause a heightened security concern?
Typically, President, you don't see the aerial view of the president because they clear the skies. For a current sitting president, you actually typically don't see the movements. Skies are typically cleared for that. Now, for a foreign dignitary, I don't know of much media coverage where anybody in New York really cares about foreign dignitary movements. I know we have the United Nations. Foreign dignitaries come and go throughout in New York City. I mean, not just for the UN, they have property here, their kids go to school here, they go for medical treatment, so we typically don't see something like this. So don't forget, we clear the skies for a current sitting president.
What about seeing what we're seeing right now, a live camera inside a hallway here? I mean, obviously having a camera there as long as they went through a sweep, but just as someone who used to protect a president of the United States, what goes through your mind when you see this scene right here? So
from a personal standpoint, I don't like it from the security perspective because, again, outside players conceive movements, positioning how we post people, but then going to the criminal justice system, and I'm a professor, I teach criminal justice, the whole idea of going through the system, it needs to be public. People need to see this. We don't want our court systems to function in secret. It's part of your due process that you're going to get a public arraignment, a trial. So it's finding that balance of what can you secure and what must you make public so that the people can see. The people have a right to see. The people have a right to be in the courtroom to witness this. How many people can you allow in? I do think it was wise that they didn't have the media coverage within because it's going to be too much. Again, you want to find a balance of making this public, letting the American public see it, but then at the same time, you have to think of safety and security. Again, I stress this, not just the President of the United States, but the people around the President. The former President is a target. The way any which way you look at it, when you bring that target around other people, you make everybody in that proximity vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evie, we're going to leave it there for just 1 minute. We are going to continue our coverage. You will continue to see this live picture inside of the criminal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. This is the 15th floor where we are awaiting the former president's arrival here so he can begin his arraignment.
And Teresa and I are going to pass the baton to Steve and Natasha, who will continue this coverage of this history-making day.
All right, so that is Fox 5 New York. They are just getting another team there in place for the next couple of hours of their coverage. And we will be bringing that back out to you here in just moments, but want to continue just to show you inside of this hallway here where we do have the former President Donald Trump. He is being processed right now under arrest here, and then we'll be having his arraignment within the next 15 minutes or so. Let's go back out now to the coverage. Fox 5 New York with the call.
Here we are, covering history in the making.
Absolutely historic arraignment of Donald Trump right now. We are awaiting his entrance into the courtroom. Again, he'll be coming out from these blackened doors there. This is typically the path that judges take into this area, and every single movement that the former president is taking today has been orchestrated and coordinated with Secret Service, state, federal, local agencies. And so, you know, this is the
shortest and most secure route.
Exactly. Anything but routine today.
And in a few minutes, a lot of the mysteries that have surrounded the indictment of the former president are about to be answered, including the charges he'll be facing. There's been a lot of speculation as to the number and the severity of those charges. We will soon have the actual answer. Once his lawyers are alerted, we then get that information ourselves. And again, a lot of the questions that remain, of course, will he say something in this short trip down the hallway? Will he say something outside of the courthouse? All remains to be seen. We are told, of course, that after the arraignment, he is set to head right back to LaGuardia, where he arrived around this time yesterday, in his private plane, and head back to Mar-a-Lago, where he will speak tonight. And we're going to hear from the DA here in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, this afternoon as well.
Of course, the big question still remains, what exactly are these charges? We've been hearing reports of it could be, 3 dozen criminal charges, could be felonies, could be misdemeanors. We don't really know what that is until finally the indictment is unsealed and aired for the first time. But still a lot of unknowns. And then also, will the judge invoke a gag order? What will he be able to talk about once he goes back to Florida? Once he has that rally that he's planning outside
the door is opening
Mar-a-Lago.
up here right now, so this could be the moment. It certainly would seem to be at hand any second now. As we take one look down the end of the hallway, that's where the former president's going to be walking down from there, where he's being held, into the courtroom to face the charges, and that's when we will learn the extent of the charges he's facing here in Manhattan.
I would like to bring in one of our experts here. Imran, we've been talking about just who the president has been with, the former president has been with. Who has he been with? Who is he in the room right now with as he awaits walking into that courtroom?
Well, he's going to be with his defense team, right? So he's with his defense attorneys, of course, but there will most likely be law enforcement also accompanying him. But as he walks into that courtroom, by his side will be his defense team, Joe Tacopina, maybe Susan Nicholas, and other attorneys that he has, brought onto his team.
Is there a limit to the amount of attorneys that can be with him, or is it the entire team? How does that work?
Right, so going into the well, there's a certain amount of space, especially down there in 100 Center Street. It's not like you're going to have a huge federal courtroom where there are multiple desks and you could really pack in a big defense team. I would imagine the speaking attorney, the attorney who's going to be speaking on his behalf in court, will be by his side. Maybe 1 or 2 other attorneys also at the table. But really, in that courthouse, in 100 Center Street, it's not going to be a cavernous courtroom. This is going to be a typical courtroom where you're going to have that indictment being read out and that arraignment going on.
It's a cramped old building, essentially. What you're saying,
it's
cramped, it's not pretty, but justice happens every day.
Right,
and he's not going to be entering his own plea then? Do we know that?
So I've heard, and I think that it's been reported, that he is requesting to plead not guilty himself. I'm not sure if that has changed since earlier reports. Right. But typically the defendant doesn't enter that plea of not guilty himself or herself. It's the attorney saying, client pleads not guilty, defendant pleads not guilty, and the arraignment goes on as unceremoniously as it typically does. Of course, as the defendant, no matter who you are, that's a harrowing experience being brought up on charges. But that's how business as usual is in 100 Center Street during a typical arraignment on the indictment. This is atypical, of course, so I am not sure if there's going to be certain procedural things actually taking place that you typically would not see, such as Donald Trump entering his own plea of guilty on the record. So it's his voice in courtroom, his voice being taken down by the court stenographer rather than his defense attorney. If you're going to take his public sort of image campaign, the PR campaign, which is associated with this, and that we know is happening here. He has not stated that he has any intention of not running in 2024.
Right.
He's got that huge base behind him fired up. Then he's going to want to do something like that just so you have a transcript from that court arraignment with Donald Trump rather than his attorney being attributed to not guilty.
Right. So we don't. Yeah. Right. We're not going to have live video images of that moment. It's just going to be still images that will emerge along with the testimony of the reporters who are in the courtroom.
Correct. Ultimately, we'll have those still images, but then what happens in that courtroom is going to be brought down, taken down by that court stenographer, that court reporter in that courtroom. That's going to be the official record, if you will, of that arraignment.
And it certainly looks like things are imminent. A lot of activity in the hallway.
The shuffling of officers,
there is a lot of theatrics to the courthouse. I mean, looking at these shots, I'm reminded of the Harvey Weinstein trial, where he really made a point of looking as disheveled and old as he could coming and going to sort of make the idea of the charges he was facing seem inconceivable. So that there is a lot of politics, a lot of theater inherent in court.
Correct. And in full disclosure, my firm and myself represent Harvey Weinstein in that proceeding.
Okay.
So I am all the more familiar with that whole process of the theatrics and also the press really being around a courthouse like that to that extent. I think we hear reports that this is far and beyond Harvey Weinstein in terms of the media down at the courthouse. But I could tell you from personal experience as an attorney on a case with a lot of publicity that there is, when you have all cameras faced on the defendant, all cameras or the media in tune with every word, court in itself is theater. Right?
Sure.
In many ways. There's the law, there's proving your case if you're a prosecutor, there's defending the case if you're a defense attorney.
Winning over jurors.
Right. But ultimately, it really is the theatrical presentation of the law as a trial attorney. And I think we'll see a little bit of that here because I think you would expect that from Donald Trump himself and what he may be wanting from his attorneys.
Of course. Yep. Again, does look imminent.
Yeah. I do want to bring in Evie really quick, and you have you've represented as a Secret Service agent 5 presidents. Just seeing this, what's your take on the security right now in the courtroom here?
I think, you're going to have a lot of players here. You've got U.S. Secret Service. U.S. Secret Service really is kind of the conductor, if you will, and it's got all the different elements. So you've got the court police, basically the U.S. court police. They're the ones who secure the inside of the courthouse. Then on the outside perimeter, we're going to have NYPD. They're the ones who are going to be securing the road closures, policing everything off. And so you want to make sure that all these elements come together. So please know that in advance, they've sat down all these entities and they've coordinated who's going to do what, how much personnel is going to be there. And you also want to control guns. How many guns are around a protectee?
Sure.
That was one of the things we would really look at. Even when we would put a protectee in an elevator, I wanted to know who was armed and for what reason.
I mean, does New York City make that a lot easier than plenty of other states which have a lot more liberal gun laws?
Yes. Well, even from law enforcement perspective,
okay.
You only really want to have that personnel that needs to be there. But even, they're blacking out the windows. That's the first thing I would do is black out windows. You don't want everybody to see inside, to see what's going on throughout this process. And, what's interesting is we were speaking earlier before about, the protectee himself, Donald Trump, how he's going to carry himself, the theatrics. That comes into play. The personality of the person you're protecting always comes into play. What are they going to do? And he is a bit of a wild card when it comes to the protectee.
Because you have to anticipate it.
Yes, and not
you
to
have
interrupt you, but we're also getting word that Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is now in the building too. So I think shortly we should be starting to see this. But you're right. I mean, it is Donald Trump, the man, right? I mean, it is going to be a production and an orchestration, and that's what we're seeing.
And playing to
today.
the court of public opinion, as we know. So, it is interesting, too, that there are egos involved, and certainly the agencies have their own issues with each other. Now, typically, you would assume the Secret Service would be in charge, but when they step into this courthouse, that's not the situation, correct?
You work together.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to surrender their power, especially in New York City. Everybody likes to think they're in charge. So the U.S. Secret Service, I'll give them this credit, they do a very good job of saying, hey, we're working together. Where overall, they're the ones who really kind of design everything anything, but they do give leeway. Hey, it's your courthouse. How does this typically work? They're going to have agents in there. They're going to decide, like, for example, when you see President Trump move, or when they move through hallways, we freeze everything. Everything gets locked up or shut down. You know, but again, your protectee, every protectee is very unique. So with certain protectees, we would say, hey, here's the plan, but, you know, on the radio, it's like, hey, you know, who knows what he's going to do in this moment. Some protectees, they follow the schedule perfectly. They move, they get into the vehicles, they do what they need to do. Other protectees are a bit more wild cards, as we see here with former President Trump. So you just do hope that he's going to follow along and really listen to those around him.
It is also interesting, I was hearing you say on the show earlier that you would have, from your expertise, had the former president go in through the loading dock in the back, but instead they went in through the side. Is that your take on it?
From a security standpoint, I want nobody to see him. I want no cameras, I want no nothing. But yes, typically, and celebrities do this too, anybody who does really good security knows you don't go out, you don't move through the front door. I don't like the front door. Front door has windows, has got people all around, everyone's anticipating him coming out. You want a loading dock. Loading docks are great because you go into the back and they're covered. You typically can't see what's going on. It's a secure. If you get ambushed or attacked, you have somewhere to shield yourself. If you're going out the front door, all you have in that moment as you're going to the vehicles are the cars. The most vulnerable points for any person who's being protected are arrival and departures. That movement. So those are really the most vulnerable points. Again, for me, it is somewhat perplexing to see such
Is that where you think that the theater of it all comes in? Maybe he objected to the idea of being sort of snuck into the building. He wanted to walk out on his own 2 feet, go in a door that typically other people would be going through. I mean, is that your guess?
I can see it for him wanting to leave Trump Tower and saying, no, this is my building. I'm going to walk out. No one's going to shame me in this process. So I can understand it from that vantage point. But again, you're looking at all these elements and you're making everybody vulnerable. It is New York City. People are very emotional about it. We do have demonstrators out there. And so you really want to manage all the variables as much as possible. It's safety for everybody, not just for him, but again, creating a balance of allowing due process to happen as well. You don't want to minimize all these different things. And it's interesting when you're speaking before about whether they're going to Mirandize him or not. And even as a former investigator myself, one of the first things I did is I Mirandized people. I didn't want any problems later on if somebody said or did anything.
So it wasn't admissible in court,
yes,
right?
Because then if they do make these, and this would be an interesting question, if they do make these exceptions for him with regard to due process, if they skip these things, then later on, could they not come back and say, well, you didn't do due process here? Could that trip anything later on when it does go to trial or to court?
Yeah. That's a good point.
The one thing about the Miranda, he is going in with his attorneys, right? So it's not a situation where this is an arrest on the street, NYPD are bringing him into whatever the first precinct, and then there's going to be Miranda warnings. On that note, on your point, you almost want to have it so to the book as possible and not make any sort of exceptions. That way, down the line, you're really shoring up the quote-unquote arrest and also the prosecution down the line. But when he's going in a controlled surrender with his attorneys, no one's going to expect any law enforcement to start questioning him. And also a mugshot. There's been a lot of talk about whether he's going to have a mugshot or not. Typically, standard operating procedure in an arrest, even a controlled surrender where an attorney is bringing a client in to face charges where they know that there's an indictment or the detectives, what have you, are looking for a certain person, they're going to take the mugshot in a typical situation. Mugshot serves different purposes, right? It serves the purpose of, carrying the defendant through the justice system in terms of during court dates or looking at a certain rap sheet, is this the person who's in court? But really a mugshot is so law enforcement knows who an individual is if they abscond, and then you have a face to the charge, to the name. Here, Donald Trump, everyone knows who Donald Trump is. Right. So talk about whether they're going to take a mugshot or not. I don't also think the DA's office, this was a surrender to the DA's office and perhaps the detective investigators with the DA's office. I don't think they have the actual machine I could be wrong, but this is just based on my knowledge of the DA's office down there in Lower Manhattan. I don't think they have the machine to take the mugshot necessarily, so that may be one reason why they don't take the mugshot. But my
promote their
guess,
beer,
and I'm guessing, is that
and then
everyone knows who Donald
made a
Trump is, so if
statement.
they don't take the mugshot,
Yes, we
it's
sent a can
because,
to celebrate
necessary
Dylan's
need for
365 days
but
of
they may also be
womanhood.
looking to do things by
Yes,
the book
they are
to make
celebrating
sure
Dylan
that this
as a
arrest
woman.
stands up no matter what attack is going to come from the defense team, and I expect the defense
Yes,
team
this is
are gonna
Brooklyn
be
Audit,
looking to
Jersey
attack
J.
these charges in every way possible.
I've got
Yeah,
somewhere.
and have they taken the fingerprinting? Is that they've taken his fingerprints too?
That would be part of an arrest, right? So the typical arrest
There's
process,
Jersey J right
and
there.
you know the law enforcement procedure,
hey, go follow
probably
Brooklyn
better
Audit.
than
Look what
I
he's
do,
doing.
but the typical arrest process.
Yeah, where's that manifesto from Nashville? Can we see the manifesto? Guys, I gotta go get my kids in like 10 minutes.
Has just been arrested.
So,
You know who's going to
somebody got
go
parking
through the
ticket.
system. Ultimately,
So I'm gonna
through
leave this
charges,
running, and I'm
that
gonna
information is gonna
monitor
carry
from
with
my
that person
phone.
as they go through the court
About
process.
10 minutes, just to let y'all know.
Incarcerated
Siggy, what's
in
poppin'?
any way, that also carries through.
Take care,
And
brush
then
your hand,
the
change your
pedigree
filthy
information,
underwear. You know
with
how
that
it
particular
goes,
defendant
Oh, this
is
guy's an auditor?
married
Oh, that's
to
right.
the
He's Brooklyn
fingerprints,
Audit.
right? So, you know, in a typical
that makes
situation,
sense.
someone
but
goes
now
through an
and
arrest
you're
process.
more than
Let's say
welcome
they
to
get
share
arrested somewhere
channels.
else, they're fingerprinted.
Absolutely.
Then all that
The
law
only thing
enforcement data. on
Y'all
the
give Siggy a follow if you don't already.
the
Click that heart right there
and
at the top of the
ID
chat.
associated with that
Give him a follow
Let's talk
automatically.
about,
Don't have to
what
leave.
we're about to see as far as
What
the
up,
terms of
buddy?
his
Oh, I'll be
release. He's not
careful.
gonna be held on what's
It's
in
not
his
far
cash
away.
bail, but there
10
will be
minutes.
terms for
10,
him to
15
be
I want
released today,
smaller
as we're
channels to
expecting.
grow.
He's gonna
I
walk
still
out,
want
get a
bigger
private jet
channels.
I'm not
back
leaving
rolling.
you
What do you
unmonitored.
expect the terms of those to be?
trying
It
to
is
get my channels,
certainly
bro.
such
I'm
an
taking the
interesting scenario.
Streamlabs
A former
mobile with
president,
me, so
a
I'll be
private
able to
jet,
watch
et cetera,
everything.
et cetera. Walk us through the terms you think
I'll
they're
be
going to
able
hammer
to
out with his lawyers.
take
for
care
the
of shit.
release.
Plus the mods don't get rid of any morons that come in here.
Donald Trump, former president.
They want
and
to start
looking
some
at the
shit.
charges. We
Don't
know
start
the
no
charges
shit, won't be no
per
shit.
se, but we have a good idea of what they're going to be. I mean, they're nonviolent crimes. Would bail reform here in New York?
Mods. When I
even if it
when I
wasn't
roll
Donald
against
Trump,
kids,
and
we don't let
someone
the trolls
else brought
play
up
in here. We
charges
just
like
if
this,
they
they
come in
would
and
be
troll, just ban them
eligible
immediately.
for release and
Sort the bodies out when I get
release on
back.
their own recognizance. So, you know, I think that's going to be the case
Other
here.
people's
No one's gonna be
channels in their
looking
lives.
I know you do. I know you
I'm
do.
with that.
and I think he's going to be able
Antonio,
to go
what's
back
up,
to Florida,
Good to see you,
because
brother.
you typically have
Oil corruption in the house. What up, man?
Yeah, I'll be watching it. I'll be watching and monitoring everything from my phone too as well. So I'm using Streamlabs, and I'm going to take Streamlabs mobile. It's on my cell phone.
Even before the bail reform laws, that was to ensure that
Cow
Shots
ticket.
fired.
Remember that
Have
idiot?
some drink,
Oh my
bro.
God!
Cheers up.
Look him up.
appear on their next court date.
Fucking cow ticket.
You don't have a problem with that.
I'm
with
about to
Donald
have
Trump,
another drink,
you know,
too.
And also, the charges here do not lend themselves for that.
There are
argument.
certain usernames that I
Justin
will
King, yeah,
always
some people
remember.
are stingy, but you know
Cow
what? I'm not
ticket is
like
one
that.
of them.
Nah, I want us all to grow together.
Dude, I went at it with Cow Ticket before I was a streamer. Long before I was a streamer. I hated that motherfucker.
Or jealousy. Like, yo, that's the one thing that really irks my nerve about making this channel. I gotta say. You know what? It bothers me because there's a few YouTubers out there that I thought that were my friends, and it turned out to be
no mugshot, no
they weren't my
DNA.
friends. They were too busy.
If there's no mugshot, the left is gonna lose their mind. They want it so bad. They want it so bad.
I think he needs to really let the
Put that
public
shit on a
know
t-shirt,
if there's going to be
and
any
you got the
faith
most
in this
popular t-shirt
prosecution that's
on the
not
planet.
politically motivated, that there's not that
According to
ulterior
Gutfeld
motive
last
that's
night.
been, you know, Alvin Bragg has been accused
Yeah,
of.
oh, this guy's
He needs to be
an
very
ass. This guy's a total ass.
with the basis
some kind of
of
shit
the
going on
charges,
out
why
here,
his
and-
office decided to seek
a lot of
these
people don't
charges at
understand.
this
I'm actually
time
risking my
against
own
Donald
freedom.
I'm trying to figure out which one I want to leave the
risking
audio
my
on
life
for you
to
guys.
be out
in
here
this
to do
process and
I
have
got kids
faith
that I gotta
in
take
the
care of,
justice
so
system
I ain't
in
trying to
general.
get killed out here, but
on that note, in terms of Donald Trump being vocal, if I was Donald Trump's attorneys, and I would imagine this is a very difficult process, I would be telling my client no more public comment on Alvin Bragg, on the judge, or these charges. You don't want to tick off the judge that your case is in front of, and you don't necessarily want to tick off the prosecutor also, because you know, typically in a situation you're going to have a process where the defense attorneys are looking to have a cordial relationship with the prosecutor as they litigate the case, even if they're putting on a vigorous defense, and you certainly don't want to to have a judge not on your side in terms of being, so ticked off because of certain comments. So I would be saying, listen, now you're arraigned on these charges. I get that you want to have your base support you. You want to vocalize your outrage at these charges and being criminally prosecuted. But as a defense attorney, it is the most nerve-wracking experience to have a client who's out there talking and putting things out there in the public, because a defendant has the right to remain silent, and that right sometimes bodes in the defendant's favor. So Donald Trump or not, his defense team would probably be telling him scale it back a little.
And I mean, leading up to this, he's been quite vocal against Judge Merchan. I mean, he on Truth Social, his words saying that the judge hates me. This is a judge who has been familiar with Trump before, overlooking a case involving him and his company before. But so far, his behavior, he hasn't been too outspoken in the last day or so. So tonight, I mean, he's been saying how he wants to have some kind of gathering outside where he speaks and addresses his base. Do you foresee that happening then? Do you think he will take the advice of his team?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I wish I could say, predict that, because it is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump likes to be heard. And of course he has the right under the First Amendment to be heard, whether you're a criminal defendant or not. And I have a feeling that Donald Trump will be vocal about his opinions and his outrage as to being brought up on these charges, even as his defense team tries to scale it back, tries to advise him or advises him not to be so public about some of his feelings about these charges. I think Donald Trump is going to possibly use this to capitalize on the actual criminal process here in order to drum up support for that 2024 election that he has indicated he is still going forward with. And I think that, the optics of things here could bode in Trump's favor, at least with his supporters and his base, if he maintains that vocal.
Now, what if the judge issues a gag order, and what if the former president doesn't observe it or, pay heed to it? There's a lot of potential issues with that alone. Do you expect the judge to issue a gag order in this case? Is that common? How common is that?
Well, in sensitive cases where you don't necessarily want a jury pool to be tainted, a judge could issue a gag order, right? If it's a public proceeding, if it's a public trial, and when I say public, all trials are public, but I mean public attention, where you risk of having, certain litigants, lawyers, etc., sort of being out there in the court of public opinion to the point where the court of law is tainted and you can't get a fair jury, then a judge may issue a gag order. But a gag order in this case, if you're trying to limit Donald Trump from what he is commenting on this prosecution, may not bode well in terms of the transparency of it being a fair
Does it apply only to him? Or is it his lawyers, his family? Would the gag order apply only to Donald Trump?
No, a gag order would be, carte blanche, right? Like a gag order is typically enforced against both a prosecutor and a defendant. You can't have it either way. If there's a gag order in place, it's typically limiting all litigants, both parties, from being out there commenting in the public as to the case.
It seems like that would be an advantage to him, though, wouldn't it? Because if the prosecutors can't speak, but all Donald Trump's associates could,
he can change the narrative, control a narrative.
Right, he would control the whole thing without him saying a word, theoretically, right?
And you also have to think, listen, DA's office, prosecutors, you're not out there as a prosecutor. I'm a former prosecutor from the Brooklyn DA's office. I had cases, some of them were very press-worthy cases, but I'm not out there outside the courtroom as the ADA on the case going and talking to reporters. Typically, the DA's office curtailed ADAs from speaking to reporters about cases, and they have set controlled press conferences from the higher ups, right? So, if Donald Trump, even if there's a gag order, but his base just keeps drumming up the narrative out there, and we know that his base typically does that. They go on social media, they're very vocal about their support for Donald Trump. He may still have that narrative and his voice out there through his supporters, whereas the DA's office typically would be more silent, more to the book, and extrajudicial comments, meaning outside the courtroom, outside the formal functions of the court, are typically not promoted or happening with the DA's office.
Evie Pomporis, let's talk to you again. I'm just curious, since word broke that this was going to actually take place after probably a week or so of speculation before it actually did, how have the crowds you've seen in the city sort of lived up to what your expectations were? Has it been calmer than you thought? Has it been about the same? What have you seen on the ground, and how has that lived up to your expectations?
I think it's calm, and I think a lot of people learned their lesson from January 6th. Nobody wants to be prosecuted and chased down. We're seeing a whole year later people who actually did participate in that event being, charged. And I think that that sent a message to people, don't do anything. You're also looking at New York City. New York City, you're looking at NYPD is about 35,000 police officers. You've got a lot of manpower on the ground. I really don't expect to see a lot going on in the streets. I truly don't. I think that it's lockdown. I think people don't want to be caught up in anything. So again, it also is he going to speak? And I do agree with what you were saying before. I think he will come out and say something, and depending on what he says.
We're seeing. All right, we're looking now. There's Joe Tacopina. So certainly this is about to happen any moment now. Boris Epshteyn, another one of the former president's associates. We have not seen Donald Trump himself as of yet, but certainly this is about to happen any moment now, as we just saw the president's lawyers and advisors heading into the courtroom. Still no Donald Trump, though, as of yet, but that should be happening any moment now. It'll be interesting to see when that moment happens, as one of his associates heads back to that door. So.
And again, this is the door that typically judges come out of, and so this is the judge's route, everything orchestrated.
Here it is. Here we go. Let's listen in.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Oh, that was just
All right, so there you have it. There you go. You saw a very stern-looking,
right, serious.
The theatricality there was a lack of theatricality, if anything, really, sort of to the gravity of the moment. That was something, presumably, he was well thought out. He wanted to show what I'm assuming his displeasure with the proceedings. What do you make, as someone who's been in this situation with other clients, from what we just saw out of the president in that very brief walk?
So although we didn't see a fist bump like we saw, outside Trump Tower there, I think his body language, stiff as a board, really walking there, and a very stern, defiant face speaks volumes in itself. You had Donald Trump walking in there, very straight-faced, very stern, and I would imagine his attorneys told him, let's have some formal decorum, especially you're walking into a court of law, you're about to be arraigned on charges, maybe this isn't the time to really pander or sort of do some theatrics for the camera. Sure. But I would say his body language and perceives the formal indictment. You usually sit and you're not on the record making substantive arguments as to the indictment itself. But again, let's see how this is Donald Trump being on these charges. But based on what we just saw going in, I think that it may be more of an expedited process. And so be it. There was a whole lead up to this, and I think that the intimate understanding about what's going to happen right now with the main players.
Do you think that a conviction could be likely? Is a trial really something that we can entertain right now?
It's very early on, right?
Yeah.
But I could, based on what we know as who Donald Trump is as a person. His defiance, I don't think we're going to see Donald Trump taking a plea. Let's just put it that way. And if you don't take a plea on the charges, this is assuming that the defense team, their motions to dismiss are not successful. Let's say they file the motions to dismiss, the charges survive. I don't foresee Donald Trump saying, okay, let's work out a deal, I'll plead guilty, and what have you. I think if the charges survive motions to dismiss from the defense team, we're going to be seeing a trial in 100 Center Street, or if they have a motion to change venue, whatever courthouse, if that is actually granted and that motion is made. But I think we would see a trial if these charges carry through.
And we've heard it said that he wants to try to move the venue to Staten Island, which is of course the Republican hotbed of New York City. Is there any odds of that happening, or is that wishful thinking?
Well, he has a right to a fair and impartial jury. If you're going to take this out of anywhere in the 5 boroughs, you're going to take it out of Manhattan and try to get that case heard in Staten Island. Is he going to be successful in getting it in Staten Island? I think there is a credible and good faith argument from his defense team to say that if they're able to show the judge. Now, let's look at the voting record here in Manhattan. This is a president that has polarized the nation in many ways. There's not really a middle ground with Donald Trump in terms of how people feel about him. If they're able to show that he's not getting a fair and impartial jury in Manhattan, then I think they do have a good chance of moving it out of Manhattan. But, courts typically want the case to be heard in the county where those charges are brought. You really have to show as a defendant that you have no chance of getting a fair and impartial jury impaneled in order to move it out of a venue.
Right. We saw that a lot with the January 6th.
You're watching live now from Fox, everyone. We were dipping into some of the coverage there of Fox 5 New York. We will go back to them in just moments here, but I want to just reset everyone that is watching with us. Maybe you're coming into the middle of this or just starting out with us. We appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page, as we continue to navigate this really history in the making day of the former President Donald Trump was just processed and now headed inside of the courtroom there. We saw it moments ago play out live right here on Live Now from Fox. I want to play out that video for you just in case you missed it. This happening just moments ago as they entered the doors there, and Donald Trump looking at some of the cameras and then walking right in the courtroom there after being processed. He was fingerprinted, but no mugshot. What some were thinking could have happened, but as we were getting closer to this day in arraignment there, the former president did not have a mugshot, but was fingerprinted and processed like others would. And right now, we are going to be waiting for the next big updates here, and that will be as the indictment is unsealed, and we will know what exactly are the charges that are against the former president and what kind of charges there are. Are they a mixture there of felonies and misdemeanors, and just how many there are in total there? We've been hearing reporting really this past week of anywhere from 20 to 34, and we'll see what the final number is once this all comes to fruition here. But you are watching Live Now from Fox, where we try to bring you as many different camera angles that we can. Let's just go through them right now to kind of give you a sense of what we are looking at. This is the hallway of the courthouse here, where we just saw Donald Trump being processed and then going inside of the courtroom there where the arraignment is going on right now. This is outside a Trump rally and protest where supporters and people that are against Donald Trump coming together to voice their opinion. And then we have another shot of law enforcement right outside of the courthouse as well. As you can imagine, this is so unprecedented. We have never been in a position like this, talking about a former president as well as a candidate for 2024 that has just been arrested, processed, and now